Jam Global Radio. This is clarity.
Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime.
Once again, it's a big good evening going out for me, Kervin, Julien. Issues today on World Jam Global Radio.
Did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. In the day,
today we have with us
system. It was all
a very dear friend and guest,
do or die.
A challenging speaker, Tony Sayers, coming to us live from Cambodia.
Since in the street, there was not a man I couldn't beat. I was good with my hands and very quick.
As you can hear, my voice is a little hoarse.
I had girls all.
A lot of shouting this week.
Getting money, life is so sweet. Now things have changed. The whole
tried to rest it last night.
I'm a changed man. Don't need no gun in my hand. It ain't about being no gangster life.
We do have a lot of challenging things to talk about today. And our dear friend Tony Sayers speaks to the very heart of humanity, so I'm quite sure he's going to have so much to say.
Already did my time.
I want to thank you all who are joining us on the website, worldjamglobalradio.com. Those that are listening through TuneIn around the world.
Did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. I was a drug dealer, sold more drugs than Superfly, but I never got home.
Funny thing is, I see so many things going on in the news.
That's why I'm telling.
Sometimes we get to issues today on a Saturday.
I must admit,
and I'm kind of concerned as to what I'm going to come out with or what we're going to come out with next.
The life I used to live, I wouldn't do it again. I was young and dumb, my brain was so numb. I was a real Forrest Gump, but I was nobody's chump. Me and Billy the Kid had a lot in common.
But I'm quite sure we're going to have a lot to say about Orlando.
I'd chew you up.
I'm quite sure we're going to have a lot to say about Joe Cox, the MP that was murdered in Yorkshire this week. I'm quite sure we're going to have a lot to say about the referendum. And I'm quite sure we're going to have a lot to say about many things that are taking place in our world today. So please stay locked in tune to World Jam Global Radio. Issues today
did my time
with our special guest Tony Sayers, coming to you live from Cambodia.
Paid for my crime. Already did my time.
Very shortly.
My crime.
Want to send deepest apologies once again. My co-host Dr. David Remay is still unable to be with us. And our guest speaker that should have joined us today, Charlie Graspy, unfortunately couldn't make it.
Back so I can get my life on track.
So you're gonna have to put up with me
like an ordinary
and my very hoarse voice.
My message to all of my friends in the pen, statewide, worldwide,
and our very dear friend and guest, Tony Sayers.
I was good with my hands and very quick on my feet. I was swimming in women.
Whatever you're doing today, my friends, it's time to get the coffee on the table, kick your feet up.
Game has been rearranged. I'm a changed man.
And pay attention to what's going on in your world.
Being no gangster, life is too short to spend it all in jail. Trying to cope with this living hell. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime.
I can guarantee you that you will not be disappointed. Tony Sayers is a man with a lot to say.
I was a drug dealer, sold more drugs.
And in just a couple of minutes,
how my own supply.
We're going to be going live and direct to Cambodia.
Story to you and you. I had to repent. I must admit, I was doing all kind of stupid.
Please do remember, if you want to stay interactive with the show,
since I've gotten older,
it's www.worldjamglobalradio.com.
I was a real force.
You can also join us at Twitter on Issues Today Radio.
The real Terminator.
At Issues Today Radio.
Schwarzenegger, I'd shoot you up and spit you out.
Or you can join us on the Issues Today Facebook page. Or just follow me, Kervin, Julien, and or Tony Sayers, and
time. Already did my time.
You can take part, ask questions.
Already did my
prompt, provoke.
Statements are going on right now. He could be facing life in prison.
But without no further ado, I want to introduce you to my guest, Tony Sayers. Good afternoon, good morning, Tony. What's the time out in Cambodia anyway?
Yeah, hi Kervin. Sorry, it's not the best line. It's gone a bit fuzzy. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir. The line does sound bad, but we're going to bear with it because our listeners know that you've actually got a lot to say.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's gone 12 o'clock at night now, so it would normally be my bedtime, but as it's you, Kervin, I thought I'd stay up because, I like to talk to you.
Yes, and I like to talk to you, sir. So, funny thing is, I know you're out in Cambodia at the moment, and later on in the show, we are going to talk about what you're doing out there, why you went out there, and what people could do to help and support what you're doing out there. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the news at the minute, which is quite troubling. And I suppose the biggest issue that's going on around the world that everybody's talking about, it's a tip of everybody's tongue, is this massacre in Orlando.
Yeah, it's another event in many that we're seeing at the moment. I think last year, 2015 was the year where we saw as many of these so-called terrorist attacks, shootings than ever before, and they seem to be escalating. And in my opinion, there is a very valid reason for that, and that is. That is basically because the US government want to disarm the American people. They want to take their constitutional rights away for their ability to arm themselves in case of self-defense. And there is
that's not a bad thing altogether, though, is it? Wouldn't you agree there's too many guns in America anyway?
Well, if we had a utopian society, Kervin, where everyone lived in peace, and there was no governments never put a finger wrong, then you could argue that wiping out guns would be a good thing. But the fact is that governments worldwide have killed more of their own people than anyone.
I'd agree with you on that, Tony. The only one thing that I disagree with is the fact that if we just allowed people to carry guns willy-nilly, we're going to have more of this. What we should not be doing is compensating for bad government.
Well, the thing is, government is the problem, and unless we understand the agenda behind the plan of what is actually happening, in the fact that there is an agenda to introduce martial law into the United States, and to have complete control over the American people, and then ultimately over the people of the world. And unless we understand that is the root cause of what is being played out here, and they cannot do that when they've got, I'm not too sure how many people live in America, but millions and millions of armed citizens, it's going to make it a lot harder for them to do that. So I guess it depends what your take is on how you see world events, and how much how much people have looked into what is really going on behind the scenes rather than what the mainstream media is telling us. Because we have to remember that mainstream media is owned by about 5 different companies worldwide. Now that has massive implications for freedom of information. So where are we getting, who are writing those headlines? Who is behind those 5 companies? And this is where we find this agenda that is playing out in front of our eyes.
Let's go back to the agenda. We've got an individual who travels 90 miles from his home to Florida, to Orlando, right? And kills 57, I believe it was in total, 57 individuals who all happen to be of a different sexual persuasion. Now, bearing in mind that the initially it's been referred to as a terrorist attack, you then have his wife who comes out and says, well, he was an abuser. She was abused by him and almost kept captive by him by years and free to get rid of him. And it turns out that he actually has some different sexual persuasions of his own to be concerned about. At first, the report was the FBI were looking into links that he might be associated or attached to a Islamic fundamentalist group, which means that they wasn't sure that they had it. Then later on, they then come back and say, well, he has been investigated twice. Well, surely they would have known he had been investigated twice when they first made the statement that they were looking into it. So I'm a bit confused. Right? Irrespective of whatever it is that the government are trying to do with the people of America, let's go back to because the victims here are those that were killed. And their families. Forget about the government. Forget about the politics. Forget about all of that for a minute. Let's just go back to the real issue. And the real issue was 57 people were killed in a nightclub on a particular night when a guy decided to go schizo. And so far, the government are trying to put it down to a terrorist attack. And I, for one, from the get-go, refused to believe that this was a terrorist attack. So whatever the government's agenda is on that to me, that's not the issue. Let's get down to what we really think took place on that particular night. What sent this guy 90 miles from where he lived to Orlando to go and kill 57 people? In your opinion, what would you think? Based on what you've heard and read so far.
I guess the way I look at these events is completely. I just do not trust the official version of the stories. I do my own independent research, as many people are doing now. I mean, everything that the media spout is you have to ask yourself a great question to ask yourself, and in any of these events, and like I say, there's more and more of them by the week almost now, is that who benefits ultimately? Who benefits from this so-called attack? We're told that these 52 people died. There's no mobile phone footage, or there's like one short clip. I mean, we live in a world where people are taking pictures, videos of everything, including their dinner, and we're led to believe that there's no mobile phone footage of any of this. There is mobile phone footage of the hero helping to carry out one individual who was televised or internationally around the world, made a hero and given a medal. Now we have got video. Yeah. We have got phone video footage of that. Yeah. So we have one person's phone footage. I mean, really, this is supposedly a packed nightclub. Once again, within 5 minutes, we're told, that it was a Muslim, that they knew about him. And this is the same rhetoric time and time and time again. They all follow the same plan. And we need to delve deeper than what we are being told, because, I mean, you've only got to look at some of the reactions of the people that were involved or related to the relations. I mean, they don't strike me as people that have just lost a family member. There was one guy that was on CNN or Fox News, sat down in an interview 20 minutes or so after the event had happened. I mean, no one goes on a live TV show 20 minutes after it happened to start talking about something so. You might do that in a couple of days, but this is what I'm saying, and it seems far out for people to get their heads around that there are such things as a false flag operation, and who benefits? The government will get to introduce more security. The government it's another tiptoe towards banning guns, and it's the same with the bombing in Europe that have been happening. It's always a Muslim whose name is Muhammad who shouts Allah Akbar before he blows himself up, and then he quite kindly leaves his passport for everyone, which doesn't get damaged in the bomb. Funnily enough,
the only thing that doesn't get damaged in the bomb.
These things are laughable, and I know it can sound absolutely bonkers, and people can make accusations. Well, that sounds like a conspiracy. Well, hang on a minute. Well, what is the word conspiracy? Yeah. Conspiracy is just questioning the what you're being told by known liars.
Here's a funny thing for me. At the time of the shooting and hours after the alleged massacre, there was no idea as to why it happened or what was behind it. And then after a while, there is a claim. Hang on a minute. After that, there's a claim that he called 911, right, and pledged his allegiance to ISIS. Now, if that had been the case, surely that would have been the first thing that came out in order for them to substantiate their theory that this was a terrorist attack.
Well, yeah, I mean, all these events, they're always a bit unsure as to the actual reasons why until they sort of pin their flag to the mast of ISIS, and. You know, who's funding ISIS? Who's training and funding ISIS?
We've been there, done the show. We've exposed them already, even though they deny it. But here's another question, Tony. On top of that, one of the first things to come out, I think it was about a day or so later, was his father, who then went on to be quoted as saying that he witnessed two homosexuals kissing in front of his wife and his son. Which is what sent him over the edge. Where did that story originate from?
I have no idea. I don't know where they dream them up. I mean, to be honest with you, I just take so little notice of what they tell us because I just do not trust it, and I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. I think that we should always be questioning the official story, and you know, a lot of the time they don't. You only have to scratch beneath the surface and they just don't add up and they don't make sense.
Okay, let's move it on one space further. Then his wife comes out in public and talks about him being a violent, abusive husband who had, tormented her for years, and she was glad to get rid of. She was brought out in public to make a public statement about this abuse that she had suffered, and so therefore we was beginning to get a picture of this violent, mood-swinging type of individual who then goes along with this story that his father had fed the day before about him witnessing this homosexuals kissing. His wife was to go on and say that he wasn't religious at all. So there goes your ISIS theory and Islamic fundamentalist. But here's the big thing for me, and I want to go back to that.
He was Muslim though, wasn't he? Wasn't he Muslim?
Listen, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I've got a Muslim at work, right, who's currently fasting, but swears, talks about sexual orientation and all different things all day long, right? So therefore, sorry, I'm not quite buying that as a total standing for everything. That's just a stock, lock and barrel, wholesale argument that they give to everything else. Here's what really concerns me more than anything else. Is that now his wife has been arrested as someone who should have come forward, right, and reported him because they claim that she probably should have known or would have known what he was up to before he went out and did it. And what I don't understand is now that this woman has come out, right, did they not understand that this woman was a woman who lived under abuse, under violence, and under intimidation, and probably was so fearful of speaking out against him or the community in any shape or form that this was the only time that she was able to voice how she felt was after he had gone. And yet now they are subjecting her to criminal charges, arresting her, taking her away from her family, and treating her as if she was the one who committed this crime. Hang on a second, before you interrupt me, let me just say this. Bearing in mind that they've already said, the FBI have already said that they have investigated him twice before now and not been able to find sufficient evidence to prove that he was involved in any terrorist organization. So if they're not prepared to charge themselves, why charge his wife, who was imprisoned and intimidated and has come out to say that he was a violent, abusive partner? Do they not understand the mentality of a woman who lives in an abusive relationship?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I thought you cut out. Yeah, I mean, again, it's all coming from mainstream, and to me, all that sounds like is they're beefing up the story to make it sound more interesting, to keep people looking within the mainstream media version of the story, and so they don't look outside of the box and do their own independent research, and it just keeps people in their game and in their illusion of what happened, and it keeps people, it just keeps people thinking that the mainstream version, which is what they want, because they don't want people questioning the official version of anything. So they'll beef up the story, and there'll be all this sub headlines and different stories that relate to so-called circumstances and instances within this guy's life and his personal life, because people are reading the newspapers every day and the BBC and what have you, and they need to be kept updated with their spoon-fed information, and if they just leave the story there, then it's not interesting enough, and people might start looking at other stuff. So they really ramp it up, which is the same as going on with the elections at the moment. They ramp it up so much that it's almost like hysteria, and it's like this mass wave of hysteria where people just can't keep talking about. And then it's like, oh, is he this? And did you hear about that? And it's Chinese whispers, and it just keeps people in that whole game. And it keeps them from taking a step back, which is what we need to do. When one of these events happen, we need to take a breath, take a step back and say, right, this is what we're being told. I'm going to leave that to one side, and I'm going to have a look for myself and research some more independent websites. And I'm not saying that they're all true, by the way. There's a lot of there's a lot of crap out there in that front as well. But the main thing is that with the internet, there's, at the moment at least, there's no control over it. So you've got millions of streams of information. Whereas if you go to the Daily Mail or the BBC or one of those, you're only going to get their version. So we just need to take a step back and think, right, if I was a bomber, would I leave my passport in around? Would I, in these events, would you not think? I mean, if you take like a football match, there's thousands of people taking footage on their mobile. You would think that someone in that crowd would think, oh, hang on a minute, I've got a mobile here, I've got like a camera, so I can actually film what's happening. And why is there in a lot of these bombings a drill either a few days before or a week before that replicates the actual event? We saw it in the 7/7 bombings. We saw it in France. There was one in Belgium where the recent one in Brussels where they did a mock event in I think it was Antwerp just a few days before. And why is that? Why do they do that? I mean, that doesn't make sense. And I don't think, on the whole, people are asking enough questions. I think we're just taking in what we're being told, and then because it seems so dramatic, and then they ramp the story up further, and there's all these other different aspects to the story about who his lover was, and who his what happened between him and his mother. It just keeps people in the storyline. And the world's a play, Kervin.
I agree with you. Two things.
It's a big puppet show, and it's like watching a television program. And that's the way I see the world. I see everything it's like there's reality, and then there's their version of reality, and the two don't sync in line with truth from my own research. Anyway,
I hear that. There's just one thing, a couple of things. First, I've just been updated by a producer. There were two wives, not one wife. The first wife was the one that was abused. The second wife was the one that was with him when he was buying the ammunition and knew he wanted to do this. And she was also texting him while the shooting was taking place, apparently, which is the one that has been arrested. Hang on one second. But more interestingly than that is that, did the police drop the ball? Because a store reported weeks ago that this guy was trying to buy a bulletproof vest and lots of ammunition, and they refused to sell it to him. They reported to the police, and the police did not act. What do you think on that?
Yeah. I just don't believe it. I mean, where has that come from? What source does that come from? That's what I would say. It's just, like I said before, it's just keeping people. All these sub stories are just keeping people ramped up in the whole in the whole scenario.
Let's just say it did happen. I know what you're saying. What you're saying is it's a false flag and it probably didn't happen. But let's just say it did happen. All right. One of the most interesting questions to come out of all of this, right, was why it took the police 3 hours to go into that building.
I really don't know, because I don't know if that was.
And there's also no evidence to prove how many were shot by the police and how many were shot by him.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like we should be maybe. Okay, we're saying that it did happen. I don't know. I can't talk about it like that, because I really 100% believe that it didn't happen like it was. I mean, there's footage of people carrying someone out, and he's hopping along, and then halfway down the road they just let him go and everyone just walks off. And this is a guy that's supposed to be injured. So it's very difficult for me to pretend that it happened when I feel strongly that it didn't happen.
I can half sympathise with your and empathise with your view, based on what took place in France when this thing went off in a club, and there was all this pandemonium, chaos, lots of footage taking place, people with different footages on different phones, etc. And the only real footage that we've actually had out of any of this was footage shot outside while there was God knows how many police vehicles with their lights flashing and sirens blaring outside. And then you heard this whole array of gunfire which took place, which doesn't tell you where it come from and who was doing it. And I understand that there is very little confirmation, and there's also very few families that have come forward to confirm that they've lost a family member in all of this. By now, the roll of honour, I would have imagined that they could have had at least 10 or 15 people a few days later who are willing to give evidence or give a statement as to what their family is going through.
Sure.
And we're yet to see any of that. So I get that, but unfortunately, I can't help but think that this actually took place.
Do you believe that there's such thing as false flags yourself?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I believe in false flags.
Sure.
We've witnessed it time and time again. There is evidential fact, proof that there are false flags.
Sure.
When we look at we did a Sharina Shim story a while back, and Sharina Shim went on knowing that they were after her. Did you follow the Sharina Shim story?
No, I didn't know.
That was a journalist that was killed in Turkey, all right, on the border of Syria, and she had reported seeing militant fundamentalist terrorists being transported in NGO vehicles, right, with the full knowledge of United Nations and the American government. Then she was killed shortly after that, and it was referred to as a road accident. Believe you me, you have to go into that, or go back into YouTube and get that story out that we did.
I'm losing track of all the false flags. There's so many of them at the moment. I can't keep up with them. There seems to be one every week. But
the other thing is that the story of Orlando has very quickly died now. It's no longer prominent in the news. But let's just be clear about this. Whether you believe it took place or not, you don't and I do. And I think there are many people caught in between both. But the one thing that we can both categorically agree on is that we're not being told the truth.
No. I honestly think, if you come to the realization like I have, and I'm not saying believe me, I'm right. I encourage everyone, all the listeners, to do their own research. But when you delve deep enough down the rabbit hole, you come across an agenda to disarm the American people and to introduce martial law and basically to, really enslave the people there, and from there the rest of the world. And when you understand that agenda, you understand they are desperate to take away the guns of the American people. And not a day goes by, probably not an hour goes by these days, where some high politician, Obama, the Senate, whatever his name is not mentioning gun control. There's a vote on Monday where they're tiptoeing this. They're saying that people in no-fly zones or something won't be allowed to buy, and they're moving closer and closer. And like you said originally, Kevin, I wish we lived in a world where there were no guns, and I would be the first to say we shouldn't have guns. But when you've got a tyrannical government that will quite happily go to other countries and bomb and kill kids and women and children and destroy their homes, and there's no reason why they wouldn't do it to other people, because they're not right in the head, these people, then that is a danger for the American people to be up against the biggest military complex the world has ever seen, without no means of defense themselves. Hopefully they would never need it, but knowing and understanding where they want to take this, you understand why there's so many of these events in America. And it's funny, isn't it? All these bombs going off in Europe, they're always bombs, but in America it's always a gunman. He's always got a gun. ISIS in Europe. But here's the thing. ISIS in Europe is always bombs. ISIS in America is always guns. Now, why is that? It's because they want to take their guns away, and that's why.
Here's the biggest issue for me, right? They could be working hard to try and take the guns off the American people all they want, but I'll tell you what, the American police have taken more lives at the end of a bullet than American extremists ever have. And if they want to take the guns away, if they want to take the guns from anybody, it's the police they need to be taking the guns from, because that's where most of the murders are being committed.
Absolutely, yeah, I 100% agree with you. The order followers, the people that unquestionably, this is the other problem. We have people in the police and the military that do the dark bidding for the people in power. The people in power don't set their children to war. They don't literally cage themselves. No, they get other people to do it. Now, the problem is, as an order follower, by the very nature of the words order follower, you're not thinking for yourself. You're not engaging your moral compass. You can't be, because you're following an order. So I could have a plant. I could be smoking a plant, and someone would come and cage me up. I've done no harm or caused no loss to anyone. That I'm well within my right to smoke that plant, which is what it is. The fact that they can make a plant illegal is hilarious in itself, because it's part of nature. But as long as I'm not harming anyone else, if I want to harm my body, that's up to me. Not that would harm my body, but these people have no moral right to come in and cage someone for doing that. And it's the same with the military. If someone gives you an order to press the button and you'll drone bomb 100,000 people, and the chances are women and children are going to be killed, you would think about it at least. But these people, they don't think. They're not thinking for themselves. They're just following terrible orders, and it's getting worse and worse. And like you rightly say, police. I mean, every day I wake up and I look at my Facebook feed, and there is some video of a cop beating the hell out of someone, smashing into their homes, and they're out of control. These people. Literally out of control. And we have to understand that these people that are following the orders are helping to enslave the people, and they need a big wake-up call, because they are fully culpable. And without people pulling triggers and doing this, then we wouldn't have wars. We only have wars because it's the people that do the bidding of the people in power. So it goes deep.
It goes deep. And you know, the funny thing is, we may never get to the bottom of what took place in Orlando. We may never, ever hear the truth. What we do know is that the suspected culprit was murdered by the police. We'll never get to find out unless they tell us basically how many people were shot by the gun that he was carrying and how many people were shot by the guns that the police went in there with. If there are
say they do tell us. I mean, what they tell us, you know, I wouldn't. I can't think of a way to say it, but you know, I'd just chuck it in the bin what they say, because we know now that they lie consistently. You know, everything that they say is more or less lies these days. So to then suddenly start taking what they say as truth about these events, you know, doesn't really make sense for me. So, you know, that's where I stand on it. I think, you know, they want the American people disarmed, unable to defend themselves, and we're going to see more and more of these events until they get what they want. So what I would urge people to look, just to open their minds a bit and think and take a step back when something like this happens. Just, you know, look at, you know, is it yet again another Muslim, you know, which is the other part of this whole agenda. They want everyone hating on Muslims, divide and rule, get people to hate on each. If we're not, you know, we must hate gay people, black people, Muslims, you know, the poor. You know, as long as we're hating on someone, as long as we're looking in the other direction, you know, then the people in power are running away and getting away with literal murder. And this has been going on for thousands of years, where they divide us. And you know, we're looking at immigrants and Muslims as the problem, and they're not the problem. The problem are the people waging the wars and making all these immoral decisions and taking away our rights and freedoms. And we need to get with the program, because it's not these people's. The reason we have immigrants. Sorry, I'm going on a rant now, but the reason. Well, the reason that we have immigrants is because they're escaping our bombs that we're dropping. And I'm tired, and I'm sick and tired of seeing and hearing people blaming immigrants and blaming Muslims when, you know, that is part of what they want us to do. They want us divided. They want us looking at each other rather than working out who the real problem is. And, you know, it's about time that we learn what's going on, because it's getting tiring, and people... you know, they're quite happy to eat Italian food or eat Indian food with their clothes made in China, and, you know, what have you. But then they'll complain about immigrants coming in. They've never learned a word of Spanish when they go to Spain drinking their Stella Artois. You know, we live in a world of hypocrites. And there's enough hate in this world as it is, and the last people we should be hating are the people that need our help. And we should be side by side with the Muslims and side by side with the immigrants, and be united in the people that are doing this to us, because you know, they thrive on our division.
I agree with you. Now I want to move across a little bit, and I want to move across a little bit for a reason, because. Again, whether you believe this took place in Orlando or not, this young man has been targeted and heralded as a Islamic fundamentalist and a terrorist. Although it appears that if what he did is correct, to me it's more aligned with a hate crime than it is a terrorist crime. Because he targeted homosexuals and homosexuals only in a homosexual gay club. So to me, that's a hate crime. But they'll have us believe he's a terrorist. Earlier this week, an MP, Joe Cox, was murdered in the streets of South Yorkshire by a member of the neo-Nazi far right. And yet, he's not being called a terrorist. He's being referred to as an individual with mental health issues. Now, I'm struggling with this, because his reason for killing Joe Cox was her stance against stance for immigration and the immigrants that were coming in the country. So, is that not an act of terror? Am I imagining this?
Yeah, well, it's terror when it suits them, isn't it? You know.
What makes the Orlando massacre an act of terror and the murder of Joe Cox applicable to a man with mental health related issues?
Well, it's cleverly constructed language to flame the fires of hate, isn't it? You know, it's terrorist one day when they want to push, bombing Syria, and then it's something else another day to suit another agenda. It's a gunman, to suit that agenda. So, I agree with you. It's all, if these, I mean, obviously the poor lady has died, and I like I said to you off air, I really haven't looked into it, so I don't want to comment too much about this one, but I would straight away, agree with the fact that they pick and choose what is terrorism and what is not terrorism, and most often it's terrorism when there's a so-called Muslim extremist involved.
Is terrorism only aligned to Muslim terrorists? Is that what the world would want us to believe or accept?
That's what they would want us to believe, yeah. But the real terrorists are dropping bombs in Syria. The real terrorists are us, are the Western countries, and obviously they're not going to tell you that, are they?
Well, they didn't call Hitler a terrorist, did they?
No, well, yeah.
But here's the thing: we're going to have incidents take place all over this world. That's going to separate us with our thoughts, and stop us from uniting as a people around the world. And this is exactly designed to do just that. Now, people will come around this, and rightly so. I mean, Joe Cox was an honourable woman; she'd done nothing wrong, and she was murdered and cut down short. She had a family, a husband, and a constituency that actually supported her in everything that she did and stood for. And this man has taken her life prematurely based on beliefs. Now, is that not what the Islamic fundamentalists are fighting Western countries for? Is it not about a difference of beliefs?
Well, yeah, like you say, I mean, if that is the case, and that official line is true, then it's terrorism but a different form of terrorism, isn't it?
Yeah, it's white. It's white terrorism. It's different.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's not black, it's not Asian, it's not Muslim. It's a white man and from England who belongs to this far right group. And
is it Britain First?
That's correct.
Is it Britain First?
Yeah,
oh God, what a horrendous group that is.
Are
they saying he's got mental issues? Is that what they're saying on this one?
That's what they're saying. Britain First have turned around and said that they are not taking responsibility for this, even though he has said that's who he was representing.
Right.
And in fact, when he went into court, when he went into court, that's what he gave as his name, Britain First. He wouldn't he wouldn't answer to his proper name. He would only answer to Britain First. That was his name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's disturbing. I mean, that group in itself is a very, very dark group. Just spreading complete hate over immigrants and Muslims. So. Who knows? I mean, I like I say, I haven't looked into that one. I mean, it's obviously very sad that the lady's died, and it's a terrible incident. I don't know what's happened with it and who's behind it. I need to look into that one, but the sort of language that you rightly point out there, where it's terrorism for one, and it's just like a mad gunman for another one. When it if that person hasn't got a black face, then it's all cleverly designed to keep us dividing. It keeps the division game up. So
it really does, and that leads us quite promptly into our next segment, because the cause for this particular murder is the forthcoming EU referendum. And very shortly, Britain are going into vote. I think it's next week, the 23rd, is when we go into vote. Do we stay in or do we get out of Europe? It's a real split decision right down the middle in this country at the moment. 42 to 48%, 45 to 45, 46 to 44. Various surveys that you read, but it's a very close run thing at the minute as to.
But they always make them close, though, don't they? Have you noticed? It's always like a couple of.
Yeah.
Here's
the thing. Here's the thing, and I've said this for me. I've been on radio for 20 or 30 years, and I remember saying this about 30 years ago when I was on radio in South Wales. And there ain't no survey ever done in this country where anybody has ever asked me my opinion. So how is my opinion calculated in this survey? Where's my count? Where's my vote?
Exactly.
And most of the people that I know, in fact, I don't know anybody in my circle of people, and I know a lot of people that have ever been questioned and given a response to any of these surveys.
Yeah.
So
no,
I don't know where they get the statistics from.
I'm yet to receive my email either, so you're not alone there.
Let's get on to this issue. For or against, in or out? What say you, Tony Sayers?
Well, I think the whole idea of voting is just a joke anyway. I'm not voting simply because I don't believe in the illusion of authority. Okay. I when I was born on this planet was am a sovereign being by the very grace of the universe, or whatever you want to call it, God, the creator.
The creator.
Yeah, and I was never ever supposed to be ruled over by anyone, and I'm not. I don't hold anyone in higher regard. We're all brothers and sisters, but I understand that I'm sovereign, and I don't want anyone to rule over me. No one has a God-given right to tell me what to do, as long as I do not break natural law, which is universal law, which is do no harm, cause no loss to other beings, and live in truth. As long as I'm doing that, everything else is man-made law, and it's completely redundant. That is the only law that we need to live by, and if we all realise that, then the world would be a better place. So
I totally understand and sympathise with that sentiment, and it's one that I've carried myself for many, many years. I'll let you into a secret, and the whole of the public across the world will now know for the truth. I've never voted in an election for the very same reason.
Good.
But here's the thing. Whether we vote or not, a decision is going to be made as to whether we go in or we get out of Europe.
We're staying. It's a done deal.
And the funny thing is that's what I believe. So why do you think the government is moving every obstacle possible to get people to believe that they're trying to get us out?
Because they want us to believe in this illusion. I mean, you've got seriously now. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. I mean, Kervin, please sympathise with me here. Just going back to America quickly. Look at the candidates. I mean, you've got Donald Trump. You've got another Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and these people. I mean. When does the average American ever get a chance? And
we actually had this. We had this conversation. I had this conversation with Charlie Grapsby on this show last week, and if those were two candidates standing for election for the presidency or prime ministership of any country anywhere else in the world, they would not be able to stand. They would not still be standing with the scandal and propaganda that has been brought up against their names, even in recent years, let alone past. I mean, I am absolutely confused as to how they're still standing and who's voting for them.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, you say it's different, but it's not really. I mean, you look at the UK. David Cameron is the fourth cousin to the Queen. And, both Boris Johnson and Cameron were schooled at Eton, which is like the breeding ground of prime ministers. So, the chances like someone like me being able to be a prime minister are very remote. And, that again, it's like, hang on a minute, that's not a so-called I don't believe in democracy anyway, but that's not a democracy, is it? Because we're getting
their idea of democracy is someone who's got enough clout and enough millions to put together a marketing propaganda to brainwash the public into believing that they're the answer to all their problems.
And someone who's prime minister really is someone who's a good actor or actress, because they are. They're puppets on a puppet show, and I'm so firm with I just don't want anything to do. I'm so strong with my conviction of I am so anti what is happening. I just cannot. I don't want anything to do with their game called voting that they invented. And there's that famous old saying, and you know it so well probably because you don't vote either, is that if they would if voting worked, they wouldn't let us do it. Yeah. And the decision's been made. We're staying in the EU. I'll nail my flag to the mast. Clinton's going to be president in America. We're staying in the EU. It's all done. It's all decided. All we're seeing now is the illusion of choice. They're ramping. I mean, how long has that US election campaign been going on? It's been going on all year.
This is like forever.
I mean, it's never ending. It's like, and it's like almost like some kind of it's like that Big Brother program, where they're keeping people like who's going to stay in the Big Brother house, who's going to win, and it's almost like people are getting like a kick. They're getting
it's reality TV, isn't it?
Yeah, what's happening is that the people that are buying into this whole, voting stuff, they're getting a dopamine hit by all this pantomime. So they're getting a buzz off it. That most of them probably know that they'll end up being voting someone in that will just lie again. At some level, they must understand that. But they continue to give it energy, and I just don't understand that, Kervin. I do not understand how. If a system has lied and lied over and over again, and it's never really served us well at all, why would we keep doing that? Einstein said that it's insanity to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result, and that's exactly what we're doing. And to be honest with you, I actually find it embarrassing. I find it embarrassing that the human race has not, that penny has not dropped. That it's a game, it's a puppet show, and there are people that have realised it's a puppet show and it's a game and still want to vote, and I just don't understand it. We have to grow up as a species, and people say things like, well, who would build the roads without government? I mean, is that how low our imagination and our creativity and our confidence is that we cannot work out between 7 billion of us how to build roads? Is that how low our opinion of ourselves are, that we need these so-called people that in power that. I mean, people say, yeah, but Tony, there'll be chaos. But there's already chaos. Look at the place. There's already chaos. Come on, people. Stop doing it. Stop buying into it.
So how do we change this doomed society that we're living in? How do we change this gameplay? How do we change it so that we actually do have a voice and our voice does make a difference? How do we change that?
We need to start decentralizing. We need to have the thing we need most of all now is courage. We need courage to walk away and start saying no to their system, to their fake polls, their media. We need to. We've already seen it how we can be our own media. I mean, there's great stuff going, like you're doing, Kervin. Great stuff being exposed now, and mainstream media are having to. They're having to follow suit because they're losing credibility. So I'll give you an example, is the whole cannabis issue. I don't know whether you're aware, or maybe some of your listeners might be aware, that the US government actually hold the patent as cannabis oil for the cure for cancer. Now, this is being suppressed, and there's a lot of people, the THC actually instructs cancer cells to destruct themselves. And there's been lots of cases where this is happening, and it's not just cannabis which can cure. There's other cures that are being suppressed as well, but because the pharmaceutical industry makes so much money, obviously they don't want that information coming out. So you have people running around parks and having tea mornings, raising money for charities where the head of these charities have got basics of over 200 grand a year. I'm sorry, if you're taking a wage, that's not a charity. It's by default, it's not a charity.
Absolutely.
So anyway, my point was, I encourage your listeners to look into that. It's easy researchable. The patents online for there for all to see. There's also the Cancer Act as well. I think it's 1948, whereby they can prosecute anyone looking at alternative treatments. So again, why is that in place? Well, that's there to protect the pharmaceutical industry. But anyway. The media. There's been a lot of people, some great people in the alternative media that have been exposing this cannabis, and over the years this is growing and growing, and now it's actually being reported on mainstream media. They're saying that cannabis oil might cure cancer, and they're reporting on cases where they've actually been cured of. So what they're doing actually is they're piggybacking off the alternative media, because they know the cat's out the bag, and they're going to lose complete credibility when this all becomes more and more widespread, this knowledge. My point is that we need to start standing on our own 2 feet, realise that we are powerful human beings. We can all make a difference. People with the mindset that, well, what can I do? I can't make a decision. I can't make a difference. You're wrong. We're all ripples in the pond. There's many of us and there's few of them, and we need to stand together, not be divided. We need to start stepping away from their stupid games that we've fallen for time and time again, and we need to start standing on our own 2 feet and decentralising from the whole idea that there was anyone ever supposed to rule over us, because we are all sovereign beings on this planet, and we deserve to live our lives out in peace, and we're not getting it with these people. And, if you're saying, well, not you personally, but if people are saying, well, there'll be chaos, Tony, there's already chaos. There's people on the streets, and there's corporations, big corporations, putting spikes up outside their premises where people on the streets can't live. That is chaos.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's going to get worse. It's not getting any better. Here's the thing: I've said this once before, and I'm not sure if you know the film. I've actually mentioned it on a show before now. If everybody was to follow the example of Richard Pryor in the film Brewster's Millions, and vote for none of the above, I wonder how much of a standstill it will bring the country to if come polling day nobody turned up to vote and they had no votes to count.
It would be beautiful. That would just be amazing, wouldn't it? Can you imagine it?
Would that not just be the best campaign of all?
It would just be you'd just love to be a fly on the wall in Downing Street, wouldn't you, or somewhere like that, where the humanity is finally realised for itself that voting was a rigged game, and it's just all an illusion of choice. The red or the blue or the green. You just have to listen to what these people say in their campaigns. I mean, how many times do they use the word freedom, and how many times do they use the word change? And this is like hypnotism. They repeat those words. It's literally hypnotism, because when you repeat something enough, it sinks into your. Yeah. It literally, on a physical level, it sinks into the subconscious mind, and it becomes a belief. Once it hits that subconscious, it becomes a belief system. But Obama's last campaign was built on change, on the word change. It was just constant rhetoric from him, And of course, the American people lapped it up, just like the British people would, and it's the same with freedom. I'm sorry, if you shouldn't have to repeat so many times that we're free if we're actually free.
Yeah.
We don't need to be told. We don't need to be told that we're free all the time. So there must be something that you're hiding. Maybe we're not free because you keep mentioning we're free.
Who you're trying to kid now? Taking all of that into consideration, Tony, and I totally respect your views, your beliefs, and your opinions. I really do. And in fact, on most of it, I 100% agree. But bearing in mind, come June the 23rd, they're voting to go in or out. If you was to turn around and think of all the reasons why we should or why we shouldn't, right, and you were forced to, and you had to choose one or the other, would you vote to stay in or go out?
I'd rather die than vote. I swear, I would rather die.
But for the interest of this country, are we best left in Europe or are we best out of Europe? What would you think?
No. For the best interest of the country, we're best walking away from the whole tyrannical regime. And the way this is how I see it. Right, I see it very simply. Stay in, enslaved from Brussels. Stay out, enslaved from London. That's as simply as I see it. And there'll be, they're ramping it up like they do in America with the whole thing that's been going on. God knows how many. It seems like years now. There's Trump one day.
Trump and Hillary Clinton, it's like they've been on television forever, and we haven't got rid of them. And I just want this damn election thing to stop, so we can stop having this nonsense.
Yeah, but we keep having it because we keep buying into it. So, I can't answer that question, Kervin, because I just 100% with my whole soul reject the idea of government and authority. Until we come away from the idea that people have more rights to rule over the rest than others, then we're never going to progress and we're never going to evolve to anything better.
Then we need to launch the campaign, vote for none of the above. We need to relaunch that.
Yeah, or just let's just start a campaign. Let's not believe in authority. That might be a good one. Maybe I'll hit that one with the website. But this is the other thing, Kervin. Right? Let's just say that the politicians were somehow good and they had our best interests at heart or whatever. But that's not even the case in the UK. We pay 60% of our wages goes on over 300 income taxes, right? Now, those income taxes range from car tax to income tax. Now we have sugar tax, and we also have things like pastry tax. So you cannot even buy a pie in the UK without being taxed on it, right? So 60% of your wages, that leaves 40% for you. And they also, on top of that, you have to work 6 months of the year to pay off those 300 taxes, right? So for 6 months a year, you're not even earning for yourself, yeah? Then you've got bankers, politicians, corporations like Amazon, Google, Boots, McDonald's. They're paying nothing, right? They've got these offshore accounts in Dubai or wherever they are. They're paying sweet FA, and we're paying through the nose, right? So I'm sorry, but for that reason alone, and these people have the cheek to bark out laws and orders, and they're not even playing the game themselves. It's like it's a joke, and that is why I find it embarrassing now. Because we're moving along, and things are getting harder and harder. And there's more and more austerity in the UK, more and more homeless people, and if people can't see that if they're being hoodwinked now after all this, then shame on them. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And it may sound harsh, but I mean it. It's embarrassing. The whole idea that we keep falling for this is embarrassing for me now.
Yeah, I kind of can't help but agree with you. For me, I would think that we're best out of Europe anyway. That's my personal opinion. But I think there's going to be people that are going to have their differences in or out, right or wrong. Who do you vote for? What do you vote? Whether you're going to vote at all. But come the 23rd, we'll find out whether we're in or out, with or without our votes. So
come the 23rd, we'll find out that we're in. I'll message you on the 23rd, and we'll see.
Well, look.
Because for me, the decisions are always made years in beforehand. This is a sad thing. We think that we have a choice, but
it's that illusion. It's the illusion to allow us to think that we took part in making a decision.
It sounds crazy and it sounds far out, but it makes a lot more sense than what's happening. And it does take. I know some of the things I'm talking about could sound a little bit crazy to some people, but think about it. Open your mind a bit. And
activism is quite crazy, to be honest. But there you have it.
Well, yeah. But the other thing I wanted to mention as well, just on the whole political voting thing as well, we have to realise that some people will be presented to us that will appear to have good intentions. So, for example, in the UK, we've recently had Jeremy Corbyn. Now, he's been completely, from the start, I knew he was good cop out of the good cop and bad cop. That's what they do. They have a good cop. So they've got Bernie Sanders in the US, and they've got Jeremy Corbyn here. They say all the right things. They throw in a few truths, and at the last minute, they'll back out. So, and we've seen this with Jeremy Corbyn recently. He's now told people to vote to stay in after saying for months that they should vote to go out. And it's like, well, there's no shock to me. It was always going to, and we'll see the same with Sanders. I mean, there's a huge amount of support for him over in the US, and it's worrying. And people are constantly looking for a leader. That's the really worrying thing. And we have to be our own leaders. We're all leaders, and we certainly don't need these people to lead us. That's where I stand on it, anyway.
Okay. Again, your views on all of these things are always appreciated, and we've got a couple more things to talk about. But there's just one little spanner that's just popped up that I want to bring in. It's probably going to be unfair because you're not aware of it, and it's not common knowledge. But I'm going to hit you with it. It's something that I've actually just seen. Now, the Olympics are only 2 months away, right?
Are they? Wow.
Rio de Janeiro has just claimed a state of calamity, asking for desperate emergency financial aid in order to help them, assist them, in order for them to be able to put on these Olympics. Now, hang on a second.
All right.
I think it's been claimed for a while now that most of these Olympic tickets that have been given out to countries has been fraudulent. There's been a lot of controversy towards how it's actually given and how it's awarded, who gets it and how much they've been bribed or how much they've paid to get on the payroll. Surely, all of these things are looked at the package when a country bids for an Olympic. Now, 2 months away from the Olympics going to Rio de Janeiro, it's an absolute chaos.
Yeah, I didn't know that, actually. I didn't know what was going on with the Olympics. I mean, in terms of, you've only got to look at Qatar getting awarded the World Cup. Come on. Have
they even got a footballing nation?
Yeah,
have they got a football team?
The world power footballing nation that is Qatar. I mean, if someone's not taking a backhander there, then I don't know who
then
is.
Please tell me what tournament they've ever played in.
Yeah, I know. It's just laughable. Of course, there's corruption in all that, and so I don't really know what's going on with the Olympics in Brazil. I can't really comment too much.
Apparently, they're in deep recession, financial crisis, and are struggling to meet the needs of putting on this Olympic in 2 months' time.
Sure, yeah. But it's the same all around, Kervin. At the moment, I'm teaching a bit of English, and I've got students around the world, and they're all telling me the same thing, And I've travelled a bit in my own life, been very fortunate, and I'm lucky enough to have travelled a bit, and I'm obviously in Cambodia now, but I see and I hear the same thing all over the world, is that there's a tiny few that have a lot, and then there's the rest of us that don't have anything. and why is that? But with Brazil, I mean, it's the same there. There's a lot of poverty there. There's people living in the favelas, in desperate poverty, and then they had the big World Cup, and all the big corporations were in, and it's probably there's probably a rat somewhere there.
A lot of that knocks me for six. And finally, before we move on, because we've got a couple of other things to talk about, are you surprised at the recent football violence in the European Championships?
Not really. We've always had it, haven't we? I know sometimes it gets some of these fights get caused on purpose to cause these things, but I mean, this is my issue, and probably a bit controversial, but the same people that are out there starting trouble and going over to France, getting pissed up, and shouting abuse at the immigrant children, which I saw footage of the other day, and then throwing bottles of beer and punching others nations, and those same people are probably the same people that have that bark, we get the immigrants out of our country, get the Muslims out of our country. The same brain dead morons that come out with absolute rubbish like that are probably out there, expecting the French to make fry-ups for them, drinking beer all day and getting involved in punch-ups. And this is the hypocritical society that we live in.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I'm not surprised, and it is sad. It is sad, but unfortunately, a lot of people, they're not that conscious, and we don't live in a very moral society. Some of us are, but some of us are actually devolving, and it's just one of many things. There's so much to talk about, isn't there? But
there is.
Yeah.
But let's just move on to where we need to be tonight. Again, I can't thank you enough for all of the stuff that we've managed to talk about tonight, but one of the main reasons that we invited you onto today's show was to talk about the work that you're currently doing. Now, every time we speak to you in a different part of the world. But today we're speaking to you live from Cambodia. First, Tony, tell us what's taken you out to Cambodia?
Well, I've always had this itch within. I've always loved traveling. I went traveling when I was 21, very lucky enough to do so, because so many don't have the opportunity. And that's one thing that I've realized recently, is how blessed I am in the fact that I can travel. I mean, I speak to people in Vietnam and Cambodia, and they would love to travel, but first of all, they would never earn enough money to even get out to the next neighbouring country, and secondly, the visa situation. I mean, it's because I was luckily enough born on a piece of land called Britain by chance. I have more rights to travel than someone that was born on a piece of land called Cambodia. To cross imaginary borders made by man. I mean, it's ridiculous, the whole idea of visas and passports. Anyway, I was lucky enough to travel when I was 21, and it's always been a passion of mine. And I've always really wanted to live in a hot country, actually. And for years there's always been a job or a girlfriend or something like that, but I found myself with an opportunity to do a bit. I was going to go away for a little while, but I landed up in Cambodia because a friend was here, and I just found absolute poverty here, and this country is still getting up off its knees from what happened to them in the 1970s with the Khmer Rouge under Pol Pot, which interestingly enough was also backed by Western governments. They turned the blind eye to that one completely. I
mean, Cambodia is one of the first countries that was popularized on TV worldwide for poverty, starvation, and it's actually gone quiet over recent years. But is the problem still there?
Yeah, it's terrible, really. I mean, the same scenario. You've got on one hand, you've got the rich government officials that are letting in Chinese investors that are basically there's so much that I've getting involved with here or plan to get involved with here. I mean, I thought it was bad in the UK, but we have there's some beautiful islands close to here called Koh Rong and Koh Kiev and those sort of places, and they're letting the Chinese governments come in, build all these hotels and casinos, bulldoze down all the nature and the jungle to build golf courses. So they're taking all the money from that whilst destroying nature here. And then if you walk 100, so you could have a plush casino, and then you could walk 100 meters down the road, and there'll be people living in shacks with no sewage. So it's very, very the disparity in the poor again. The people of most places when you go in the world, the people are bigger, and I find.
Hello, are you there, Tony? Hello, Tony, are you there? You're going to have to... Yep. Are you back?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we lost you for a minute.
All right, I can hear you. But yeah, so I was in the UK, and I just, the way the culture is there, where people seem to be very self-interested, and, it's all about buying the brand new car and the new TV, and that just doesn't interest me. So on a soul level, I'm happier to be around people with less, but they've still got their soul intact. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm helping a community. What happened was I was at a market about 2 months ago, and I got chatting to a lovely Canadian woman called Maya, and she was telling me about how she'd come across this man on the beach who had lost the use of his legs when he was 2 years old to polio. And he also, at the same time, had his parents killed by the Khmer Rouge, which was the regime under Pol Pot at the time. So this poor kid had lost his legs and his family, and he was left abandoned. Luckily, some Buddhist monks looked after him for 15 years, and he decided then that he wanted to go and have a family. So he went off, he met a wife, and he had 2 children. Now, the difference with this, Thibaut, his name is that he, like many people here will just beg. He won't beg. He's a very proud man. He wanted to set a good example to his children, so he decided to work. So what he does is he makes jewelry out of seashells, and he sells them on the beach. And he walks 2 kilometers a day on his hands to sell these seashells. This jewelry. Sometimes he doesn't sell anything, and sometimes he sells a bit. But what's happening now is he's got arthritis in his arms, and he can't do the walking on his arms anymore, which obviously is not good for his income. And so anyway, we've got involved, and like I say, Maya's done a lot of the work. I've got involved recently. We've managed to raise enough money for him for a disabled motorbike, so he can get to the beach every day and not pay out for taxis or tuk-tuks. We've built a ramp to his home so he can get in and out of his home easily on his motorbike. We've also paid for his children to go to school for the next year. And also to learn English. But the other problem is that his house is basically a wooden shack. It's falling apart. The footings are terrible. And it's just in front of a river, which serves as basically the local sewage. It's pretty grim. But basically, in the wet season, like now, sometimes it's prone to flooding. So it can flood into his home. And not only that, the snakes here can flood into his home as well. So you imagine you've got this family with sewage coming into their home and snakes. I mean, it's just absolutely decrepit. It's a squalor. And what we're aiming to do is knock down that home, buy the land that it's on, and then build a home high enough so that doesn't happen. And then from there, reach out to the rest of the community. So it's starting quite small, but we're hoping that it's going to snowball from there. And problem is, there's just so many people that you want to be able to help, and you can't help everyone.
Agreed. Well, what's the aid like getting to places like Cambodia? I mean, if there's aid going into all parts of Asia, what's the aid like? Foreign aid like?
I don't know where. I don't think it's. I don't think it's under sort of the Red Cross kind of thing these days. But it's you can get stuff in and out. It's not. It's not like a Gaza or anything like that, but it's still it's still picking itself up from war, and it's very interesting because in the late 60s, early 70s, there was a secret bombing by the Americans here, which they dropped over 500,000 tons of bombs, which was more than the atomic bomb, over a period of 3 or 4 years, and 500,000 Cambodians were killed. But again, that's something that we're not told in the media, and that obviously paved the way for Pol Pot and his regime. And made it a lot easier for him. So, again, it's who are the terrorists, and it was horrific.
Going back to the work that you're doing and what you guys are trying to provide where you are, is there any way that anybody can give anything? Is there a site that they can donate to? Is there
Yes, there is. Hang on a minute. It's called Tebow's Fund. I mean, I don't know whether I could put it in a link or something after. I don't have it to hand right at me.
That's
with
fine.
Me right at this moment.
If you can drop it in the Issues Today link or my Facebook or whatever.
Yeah,
we'll make sure that we generate that and get that around.
Yeah, lovely. That's great. It's a GoFundMe account, and it would be great if anyone, if they've got a few pennies, just would be great if you could help. And what we're trying to do is document what we're spending it on, and Maya, she updates the site because a lot of these charities, like I mentioned earlier, we're giving a lot of money and they're not going to where we think they're going to. So we're trying to do things differently and make it as accountable as we can.
Well, I mean, I don't want to move off to what you're talking about. I suppose we're probably going to go back there very shortly. But one of the biggest problems that they've always had in those parts of Asia and in Cambodia has been a very strong foreign influx of individuals using the island for their sexual pleasures, right? And even this week alone, I think on Friday, a 77-year-old British man was sentenced to just 18 months for sexually abusing 3 boys between the ages of 12 and 16. What is law and law enforcement like out there for people who? Is it as corrupt as ever?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Kervin. Unfortunately, I think a lot of that does go on here. It's pretty bad, in Asia for that. And Asia really, when you look in the brochures, it looks lovely, all the islands and all that sort of stuff. And you scratch the surface and it's not very good. You've got the things that you're mentioning going on, the child trafficking and that sort of stuff. And then you've got the corrupt governments, and it's pretty nasty stuff.
Isn't it? I mean, they also had, I think just a couple of years ago, they had a massive scandal, which was going on for a while, which was uncovered, which was the virginities for sale thing that they were doing with the young girls, etc. And that was a big phenomenal story about, I think, way back in 2014. Around about then, I'm not sure what it's like now, whether they've managed to clamp down on it, cut it out.
No. Well, I don't think they have. I mean, the way it works here, if you need to go to the police, then just say I got robbed. I went to the police. I'd have to pay the police to actually do anything about it. They would want paying. You know, it's all money talks here. And you know, if you were one of those people, I guess, I don't know, money talks. You could easily buy a copper off, I would imagine. It's just the way the things are here.
It kind of makes what you do even more honourable. How is what you do and the work that you and others like you do received by those who are the recipients of the service that you are providing?
Well, it's quite an interesting question, actually, because there's a lot of, with this particular guy that we're helping in his community, you would think that the community would be happy that he's getting help, but actually they're not, and they actually get quite jealous. And you know, they can ostracize him from society. He's been ostracized quite a bit, and you know, he feels very vulnerable. So you know, they have very little respect for disabled people in these countries. I mean, the way they think is very backwards over a lot of issues. I mean, rubbish and litter is another one. I mean, it's just terrible here. I mean, it's such a beautiful country, and they just throw things everywhere. I mean, it's a disgrace. But yeah, the disabled don't have much respect, and there is a lot of jealousy. And so what we're trying to do, one of my ideas is to, I've been speaking to his neighbours and trying to break down the barriers with his neighbours, and almost say, look, you know, we're not just here to help him, you know, hopefully this can extend to your families as well. So what I'm planning to do is teach some English to the kids around that community as well. So the benefit of you know, they're seeing the benefit of us being there helping Thibaut, by their children will be able to learn English to a certain extent. So it's breaking down those social barriers. So it's. Again, you know, they need. I think we as a species, we need to reconnect community again, and because you know, in the UK we're very disconnected. I lived in London for 2 years, and you know, people don't talk to people in London unless you know them, and it's the same here. You know, they don't trust each other as well. That's the other thing. There's a lack of trust within communities because people are so poor. There's robbery that goes on and things like that. So, you know, when you talk about Cambodia, you think, well, you know, that's exotic. That must be brilliant. You know, he must be having a whale of time out there. And I do have some idiots say to me, well, you know, what are you commenting on the UK, but you're out in Cambodia? Well, you know, things are a lot worse here, and people here need help probably more so than in the UK. And yeah, so it's not all it seems on the surface, and Asia in general is, especially I think Southeast Asia more so, is, you know, it's you scratch under the surface a little bit behind all the beaches and the, you know, and the nice weather and everything, and actually it's pretty dark, and you know, there's tourists that are culpable, and yeah, I don't know what the answer is now. I'm at the point where there's so many issues in the world. It's like, what one do I focus on? Do you know what I mean? It's like, where do I put my time and energy?
You can only put it on wherever you are. What's the quality of living like in Cambodia as a whole?
Well, what, for myself or for the people?
For the people of Cambodia.
For the people of Cambodia, the general, I mean, the average Cambodian earns less than $1 a day. So that gives you an indication of what their living standards are like. And, you know, they'll pretty much do anything and to earn money. You know, they're desperate people. And, you know, it's something that I was quite shocked. I mean, I obviously thought that it would be a poor country, but I didn't realise the scale of the poverty and the scale of corruption within the government here and the police. But the police in the UK are corrupt, and the court system in the UK, you know, those in power and those that have authority are corrupt. This is why we need to stop voting and buying into voting. So yeah, it's
So,
you know,
so when you compare voting, you bring that up in the middle of Cambodia. What's democracy or politics like in Cambodia?
Well, I think the people here pretty much are much more aware that the government are complete liars. But the problem is they don't have the Cambodian. I don't know whether it's just their nature, but they don't really seem to have much get up and go. They're quite, you know, they're quite. I don't know whether it's just because they find their situation so helpless that they just can't see a way out. That they've just got no get up and go to try and get anything organised. I don't know what the solution is to that, but and I don't know whether. I certainly feel that, you know, where I actually am is there's quite a few conscious people here, which is very nice. People that care. There's a few of us.
Are there a lot of volunteers, activists, campaigners?
Well, yeah. There's not hundreds of us, but there's a small group of us. I've got a couple of friends coming out in October this year as well, and November back from the UK that are very conscious that are going to look to stay out here for a while. And you know, it would be really nice to help the people and you know, educate them about litter and things like that, because the government aren't going to do it. And you know, while I'm here, and I don't know how long I'm going to be here, I'm going to help and give back, because you know, I do enjoy the beaches every now and then, and I do enjoy. For me, the cost of living is comfortable, and you know, I feel that I should give something back, and I want to give something back, and that's what I'll do while I'm here until I, you know, either come back to the UK or wherever I go next. So I haven't really worked that out yet.
What's hygiene and sanitation like?
Not great. Yeah, not great. When I got here, I kept getting food poisoning. Yeah, I kept getting Cambodia belly.
And still you insist on staying out there and doing the good work that you're doing, right? You know, the funny thing is...
Yeah, well...
Go on.
Well, you know, it's not. I'm probably, you know, it's not that bad. You know, where I live now is very clean, and there are restaurants that are clean, and you know, it's not all really decrepit and poverty stricken. There are areas that are nicer and more developed. So it's not all terrible, but you know, if you're talking about the average Cambodian, then yeah, it is pretty bad.
Are there things, for example, that you would have taken for granted before that has given you a reality check since you've been out there?
Yeah, there always is. I think, you know, as human beings, we always kind of, you know, we always want more. But I've always had a pretty down to earth grounding. My parents are very down to earth, and my dad and my mum, and they've always been people that have never been showy or anything like that. And you know, I've never been that interested in material things. My dad never was, and you know, I've had a grounded upbringing, which I'm grateful for. But having travelled when I was young, I mean, I've been to some very poor countries. I've been to Nepal, I've been to India, been to parts of South America. So I've seen throughout my 20s, I'm in my 30s now, but I've seen how little people do survive on, and it's always been a grounder for me. And you know, that's why it's kind of made it unbearable for me to be in the UK, because the mindset there is just, I want more, and I'll just do whatever I need to do to get more, and it's all useless stuff that, you know, we don't really need half the time, and then we spend our lives paying back debt, which is unnecessary. So I every day I see something and I think, and you know, you see them smile, and it's like, wow, you know, they've got nothing, but they're in many ways they're happy. And what I'm more worried about is the big corporations started to come here. I mean, there's already, the town I'm in, there's already a KFC here, and they've just built a Starbucks in Phnom Penh, which is the capital.
How can they afford KFC and Starbucks?
Well, I don't think it's the Cambodians. I think it's the actual corporations that can afford to bring them here. But my worry is that, you know, the Chinese are here and they're developing certain parts, and, you know, I'd hate it to turn into a big, you know, Benidorm kind of thing, because that's where I see it going. And
Are the poor people being pushed out, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, they're not even so much pushed out. They're just not worth anything. They just don't get any help or support. And it is quite shocking when you see how, this story, when I heard of this Tebow, when I heard about it, I had tears in my eyes, because I thought, wow. And then, I've done if you go, we'll speak about my website in a bit, but if you go on my website, there's a video about, it's got the area of where he lives, and I show the house, and you can see all of it, and it's, it's hot, and the amazing, this guy is amazing. Can you imagine not having, first of all, not having the use of your legs, but then struggling your whole life. Imagine how tough that guy's life has been. I mean, if you can't take some sort of humbleness and grounding from that, then I don't know what. But that's why I think it's so great to travel. And like I say, I am very fortunate that I just so happen to have a passport that allows me to travel, and that I have worked hard in my past to I was in a very immoral industry in a state agency for years, but I've managed to do a bit, and I try and give a little bit back when I'm in these places.
Cambodia is not the most inviting place to have to go out and venture in order for you to go and want to make a change in the world. But I'd imagine trying to make a change in Cambodia is also making a change in you.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I do these days. It's my life. I haven't always been like this. I mean, I've never been a bad person, but 5 years ago, I tell you what happened. I mean, I was working in the state agency. I was doing all the hours God send. I had target after target. This had gone on for years. I was getting pressure. I wasn't happy where I was living. And I just remember I stood in my kitchen one day and I said, my God, is this all that I'm here to do? Is this all there is? Is this all there is in life? And then I asked the big questions, like, is there a creative force? Is there, why am I here? What is my purpose? And then all of a sudden, the answers got revealed to me. And I think, if you aren't asked the big questions in life, then the answers do get shown to you. But I think the problem is not enough people are asking the big questions in life. And so I discovered all the corruption and this agenda, and I thought, wow, I need to start getting involved. This is, if I ever have kids, I don't have kids now, but if I ever have kids, then I don't want them growing up in a world like this. And if I can't change it, at least I damn well know I've done my best to try and change it for them. And I just had a complete change in who I was, and I just started to care again. And I found with that when you serve others, you serve yourself. And I am, although there's a lot of darkness in this world, I am probably the happiest I've ever been inside myself. And I just feel that I'm living my purpose, and it's so exciting to see other people becoming more aware, and they're starting to empower themselves, and they're starting to get involved, and slowly but surely people are starting to care about things in the world, and that's how it's going to change, and but just reiterating my earlier point in the, we can make a difference, each and every one of us. But we need to start on the path, and that involves caring enough to make a difference. And it's a fantastic time to be alive. There's that Chinese proverb, isn't there? May you live in interesting times, and we certainly do. And I just feel that I just want to play my part as much as possible. But the suffering of everyone around the world, it gets me every day. And some days, like you yourself, Kervin, I mean, you do this in your own time. get to you, and it can get to you seeing people here and seeing what's going on in the UK and in America, and it hurts, and it should hurt, but we it's what we do with that, how we harness that energy of the anger and the of the sadness. It's no good just sort of sitting there and getting down and depressed by it, or which is easily done. We've got to put that into useful action. We say, right, okay, this is a situation. What can we do about it? First of all, first thing that we need to do is understand that we can make a change individually, and if we all did that. If we all had 7 billion of us with that mindset that we can make change, then this world would turn on a dime. And that's where we're heading. That's the positive thing. I do feel that things are slowly changing, and I thank you for your work that you're doing just in this interview. Because you're probably doing it. Well, it's your own free time, and it's people like you doing this that are being the change in the world, and that's the difference. It's being the change that you want to see in the world. And I know it's a cliche, but that's where we're at.
It's not a cliche. The funny thing is, like yourself, I've worked with charity Broken People for many years. It's what I love doing more than anything else. I have my own charity over here in Coventry, Feeding the Homeless, which has been for 8-9 years now. We've done that. I've worked with drug addicts and alcoholics whom people ostracize. In fact, it's a former drug addict and alcoholic that I stood alongside and supported for 5 years that got me the job that I'm doing now. It's
wow.
It's amazing how things turn around to come back and help you. Because of what you've done. So I take my hat off to you. I've never had the courage or conviction to go out as far abroad as that. I did actually go out to the Caribbean in 2013. Met a homeless guy who was about to go and sleep on the beach. And I said to my mother, how could we let this guy go and sleep on the beach when we've got spare beds here? And that was in 2013. Do you know he's still living in my mother's house today? And
is he really? Yeah. That's amazing. I tell you what, Kervin. Yeah, it's stories like that that just warm my heart. That gives me hope that there's, as human beings, we're not inherently bad. I do get frustrated, and people that follow me on Facebook and that sort of thing will probably agree with that. And I can get quite sort of passionate, and but ultimately, when we lock into our true self, and like you say, you open that heart, you realise that we're all connected, we're all in this together. We have such empathy, and but it's just getting past that mindset of me, and that's
the question. Is everybody sees it? It's just very few choose to do something about it.
Yeah, and well, call it karma or whatever. That's their choice. But those people are unfortunately holding us all back because we need them. Yeah. We need what's going on. We need everyone right now. Everyone on this planet right now should be doing something to help.
And if everybody just did that little bit, imagine how much more we get done.
Exactly, yeah. And, no one wants to look at all this. The last thing, really, the last thing that any of us want to do is you don't really want to be spending your Saturday afternoon talking about corrupt politicians. And I don't want to be sitting up till 2 a.m. talking about people with no homes in Cambodia. But we do it because we care. Yeah. And there's no, people want to make excuses. There's no excuse for not caring about what's going on this planet. It's not difficult to see that things aren't right. And we can all, and we should all dedicate at least a small part of our time to helping future generations, because we're just temporarily taking care of this planet for them. Yeah. And what we leave them is important. And are we going to
here's the real truth. As far as the true meaning of time is concerned, we're only on this planet for a fraction of a second. That's how long we've got to make an impact. That's how long we've got to make a difference. That's how long we've got to leave a legacy. A fraction of a second as far as time is concerned. And most people spend that time doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's all X Factor and football and beer, and it's just complete waste. You know, it's just a complete waste of a life. And you know, I think you is it your son just had a child? Is that right?
My daughter.
Your daughter,
yeah.
Your daughter. So, you know, these are the people that we're fighting for. You know, it's your grandchild, and you know, I was delighted to see that, and that's why I do it. You know, I do it for the people that you know, the people that are young, they're coming into the world, and we don't want to leave them this mess.
We've got a right to try and put as much right as we've actually come into it and made as much wrong.
Yeah, and you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, but even if we teach our children to care about things that are going in the world, because I don't even see that going on. And yeah, this is harsh. It's harsh and it's critical. And yeah, damn right it is. But I don't see parents en masse telling their children, oh, you know, we need to care about things like this. We need to care about the environment and stuff. You know, most kids have got an iPad in their hand by the age of 5, asking how to download apps. And, you know, society it's wrong. There's so much, and people say, yeah, well, you know, you're judging, and yeah, I am judging, and we shouldn't not judge something if it's completely bad. If it's not serving us, if it's wrong, then we need to be adult enough to put it on the table, like you said earlier, lay the cards on the table and say, look, what we're doing is wrong. What the way we're behaving is wrong. We don't care about things that matter. The quality of attention is on things that don't really matter. You know, all right, you're not interested in politics, but you're damn right. You can be damn well sure politicians are interested in you.
Absolutely,
and
and politics will affect your life.
Exactly, and you know, there's a lot of what I call fence sitters out there, and people that are aware. And they're even not got the courage together, or they just haven't got the will together. You know, these people, I'm telling you, you need to get on the field of battle, because this is a battle. You know, we're in a battle here. Absolutely. And we need you. We absolutely 100% need you fully involved. And I would never expect people to do as much as what you or I do. You know, I don't have children, so I have a lot more time, and you know, I do have time, but you know, at least talk to people, at least start caring, you know, share some information. I mean, you know, it doesn't take a lot to share certain. I mean, I know people on my Facebook, they're aware. I mean, they're agreeing with things and they're liking things, and then you look at what they're doing, and it's next to nothing, and it's not acceptable. I honestly believe that it's just we're at that stage where we need to call it as it is, and it's not acceptable. It's going to get worse if we don't start getting together and keeping us together, uniting together. We need to ignore this constant Muslim immigrant bashing that's going on and not get drawn into it, because they want us looking in those directions. We need to stay together as a unit. We need them on our side, and we need to get to the people, get to the minds of the people that are following orders. We can have conversations with them and say, look, you know what you're doing. You know, you're helping paedophiles in Parliament by what you're doing there. And it sounds blunt, but that's what we're doing.
That's a fact. I'm also aware that we're fast running out of time, Tony, and I wanted to get onto your website. Let's try and feed into that, because it feeds quite well into that. What can people do? Well, first and foremost, tell them about the website and what's available for them to be able to find out on there. Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited about this. For a few months, I've been having a website developed. It's called it's www.transcendingtimes.org. Okay, so that's transcendingtimes.org.
And we have posted that on the Issues Today Facebook, so if you go on there, you'll be able to find it and follow it now.
Oh, brilliant. That's great. So the reason I chose the name basically was because that's what we need to do. We need to transcend. So we need to look at the negatives and turn them into positives. That's what alchemy is. So So that was the reasoning behind the name. But yeah, so at the moment it's in its infancy. So I'm blogging at the moment. I've done a few blogs that are on there that people can see and have a look at. I've got all my vlogs up there. I've been vlogging now, which is like video blogs for anyone that's not sure what that means. I've been vlogging now for a couple of years, and it's a very good way to get points over, because it's like a 10-minute slapshot of a subject, and people get to see your face, and you're talking into the camera, and there's some hard-hitting points on there, so people can have a look at that as well. It's got my project in Cambodia, which has the link to anyone that wants to donate on there, and you can read all about Thibaut's story. You can see the YouTube video of his area, his house, and that sort of thing. But what the thing that I'm excited about with it is, you probably know yourself, Kervin, a lot of the art in today's society and creativity is very much controlled. I mean, you only have to look at some of the music, mainstream music that is bestowed upon us these days. It's very difficult to find decent music. Art has been sectioned off for mainly the rich. And we're in a time where, I mean, we are creative beings. That's what we are. And I really see creativity as being one of the ways out, one of the answers, one of the solutions to our problems. Because art is very powerful, because it sinks straight into the subconscious. And it's been so suppressed lately, and it's been getting worse and worse, where it's just absolute drivel that's being pushed out on mainstream. And what I'm really excited about is that my intention, and I haven't figured out exactly how to do it yet, but my intention is that the website is open to everyone, basically, to share their, be it artwork, their music. There's a lot of great conscious music out there where people are carrying political messages in their music, in their artistry, in their writing. And I really would love this to be like a hub for people to do that, and to get their own their own way out there, because that for some people is their contribution. Some people they might not feel comfortable in doing a podcast or a radio show, or even writing something, but they'll express it through their artistry. So I want to open that up. I want to open all avenues up where people can share that information, and then from there we can share it to social media, and we can get the word out in different ways, because they don't like us being creative, because they know it carries a powerful message, a powerful subliminal message underneath it. So like I say, that's my intention. I haven't worked out the ins and outs of how to do it yet. I'm speaking to my web designer, but I'm very, very excited about it, and I'm really excited just to have another portal, because the censorship on Facebook now is ridiculous. It's barely worth me posting some things these days, because it's so controlled. They've introduced algorithms now, which is based on the number of likes or something, and all the news feeds messed up, where you only see what people like in a group, or what they've posted in a group. You don't see what's on their news feed anymore. It's nice to have something which is completely uncensored. I could share this stuff. It's complete. I like to get to the root cause of things, and a lot of it can be quite hard hitting, and sometimes people can take it the wrong way. But often when you get to the root cause of the things, it can be a bit abrasive. But yeah, that's my intention with it. So yeah, transcendingtimes.org. Check it out, and keep posted on it.
So how long do you intend on staying in Cambodia?
Well, I've just renewed my visa for another 6 months, so that takes me up to November. I will probably stay till the start of next year. Then I'm not too sure, because the rainy season here is quite depressing. I mean, when it rains here, and sometimes it can rain for days on end. So I don't really know exactly how long. I would no doubt be coming back to the UK for a certain period of time, because I would like to get some meetings organised and perhaps organise a conference in London. I was organising some meetings before I left last year, which went quite well. So yeah, I would maybe like to quite like to do that, but also I want to write a book as well. So being in Cambodia, some of the scenery is quite inspiring. So that's also in the pipeline. I've started writing it. I've done about 4,000 words so far. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's my ultimate goal, is to get a book out and probably come back, do a few meetings, and maybe a conference in London. And you never know what crops up these days with different opportunities. When you follow this line of truth, like you said earlier, certain opportunities rear their head. So I'm open to all possibilities. You know, at the end of the day, I'll just continue to put truth out there, or what I consider truth, and continue to sort of wake people up to what's going on, and try and empower people, and help people see the light of day.
Well, Tony, once again, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on Issues Today on World Jam Global Radio. And if anybody wants to follow what you're doing, can you just give them the website address again, please?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook. It's Tony Sayers. I've got SoundCloud, which has some very interesting podcasts. I've been doing some podcast series. I've got the likes of Max Egan and Ollie Damagard on there. So if you go onto SoundCloud, Tony Sayers, you can find them on there. But the links are on my website as well, which like I say, is transcendingtimes.org. So it's not .com or .co.uk, it's .org. And you can find all my stuff on there now.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic, and you'll also be able to find it on the Issues Today Facebook page, and we'll tweet it as well. So you'll be able to follow what Tony's doing, as both myself and our producer Linda, absolutely fantastic lovers and supporters of everything that Tony does. It's a great guest and a great friend and family member of the Issues Today team. We look forward to getting an update from you in the very near future as to how things are going in Cambodia. But then from us, until then, Tony, thank you very much for joining us on Issues Today.
No problem. Thanks a lot, Kervin, and thanks a lot to Linda as well, who is tracking me down and stuff. So
she does a lot of work putting this stuff together.
Just carry on doing what you're doing. Thank you for what you're doing. It's great work, and you're an inspiration as well. So thanks for inviting me on, and thanks a lot.
Take care, Tony. We'll speak soon. God bless.
Thanks, then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
World Jam Global Radio. This is clarity. This is clarity.
That was the irrepressible Tony Sayers.
I already did my time. I paid for my crime.
And if you don't get it, you better get it. The time to act is now.
I paid for my crime.
Well, just to announce, there will be no show next Saturday.
I paid for my crime.
So we'll be back on Issues Today, World Jam Global Radio, in 2 weeks' time.
I already did my time. I paid for my crime.
What a fantastic...
Back in the day, I didn't really care about the...
What a fantastic interview we've just had with Tony Sayers.
It was do or die.
It will be available for you to listen to again.
Young and foolish.
Please tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend.
There was not a man I couldn't beat. I was good with my hands and very quick on my feet. I was swimming in women. I've
been your host, Kervin Julien, on Issues Today, World Jam Global Radio.
Rearrange. I'm a change.
We're out of here.
No gun in my hand. It ain't about being no gangster. Life is too short to spend it all in jail. Trying to cope with this living hell. Already did my time. I paid for my crime. Already did my time. I paid for my crime.
You have anything that you think that we need to be looking into? Please don't hesitate to contact us on World Jam Global Radio, Issues Today, or at Issues Today Radio on Twitter.
Already did my time.
Available on Facebook and all social medias. Remember, World Jam Global Radio is www.worldjamglobalradio.com.
I'm not proud of what I had to do. That's why I'm telling my story to you.
Or you can go on www.transcendingtimes.org. Stay in touch with the Project Cambodia and all the rest of the work that Tony has been doing.
I was young and dumb, my brain was so numb.
And once again, we just thank him.
But I was nobody's chump.
For an absolutely fantastic update and insight
much meaner than Arnold Schwarzenegger
as to what is being a real humanitarian all about. And once again, we give thanks to our production team of Teresa Ashton and especially producer Linda Sue for all their hard work in bringing this thing together.
Already did my time, paid for my crime. Already did my time.
We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Same place, same time.
Already did my time.
World Jam Global Radio. Issues today.
My time. Baby, my crime. Baby, my crime. Baby, my crime. Baby, my crime.
World Jam Global Radio. This is clarity.
Already did my time. I paid for my crime. I'm trying to get this felony off my back so I can get my life on track.